Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fired Up Conservative Talk. I am William Del Pilar, your resident conservative Latino, and we've got a heavy hitting lineup tonight that cuts right through the mainstream spin to expose the raw truths they're always trying to bury. And we'll kick off with the radical national shutdown movement, where activists are using school children as human shields and PR weapons to obstruct federal immigration enforcement. Both my panelists, Annette and G, have kids. We'll see what their kids have to report for the front lines. Then we're diving into the looming government shutdown, DHS style. Democrats are holding our national security hostage, threatening to freeze the department unless Republicans cave to unrealistic demands. Demands that would keep even the most dangerous criminal aliens on our streets. From there, we'll dig into the explosive new Epstein files dump that's sending shockwaves through the elite class. And before we came on the air, we were already talking about it. And we're talking about Bill Gates, the Clintons, and even the infamous author Michael Wolff. Why the hell would Trump give that guy access? Finding themselves under the microscope are these people in this massive 3 million page release. So hold on to your seats. This is a fast moving hour you cannot afford to miss. Let's get going and let's start with bringing in our guests. We'll start with the Miss Beautiful Annette Ross. Hello, Miss Annette. How are you doing?
Good. Good evening, William.
Should we just do the show and leave the G Man
I don't
hanging?
know. Jeez. Yeah, let's keep him out.
Yeah.
Come on, G.
And I rushed home just to be on here.
Yes, he did, folks. We're taping this a little later than usual because you're waiting for the G Man. It's always much for the audience when you do podcasts. I love going solo, but when you prepare a show mentally, when I'm preparing a solo show, I'm focusing on every aspect from the solo perspective. But when I'm doing a show with a group, if I have to do it solo, I stress because I'm like the mindset of how I prepared for the show is completely different. Gee, you used to do podcasts. Is
Yeah.
that how it is for you?
No, because you gotta fill every second if you're just solo, right? And you gotta make sure that you don't, go off topic too much, and then yeah, so at least, when someone else is talking, you can gather your thoughts a bit while you're listening.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. All right, guys, let's get into it. The first topic is a quick hit. I was kind to the panelists this week and forwarded them the quick hits, even though they didn't know I forwarded it to them. So I guess it is like going into code. But to me, this is very important. You know, uh, Kids being used to protest. It's complete PR. As a marketer, I recognize it immediately, but it's also dangerous. ICE still has a job to do, and adults are intermixed. And I find it disgusting and even more disgusting for the mothers when they want to do their trash, speaking, calling names, going after the ICE, and they have their kids with them. What kind of example does that set? But more importantly, those kids could be put in danger. And then, thirdly, how's a kid's mental mind gonna be if they see an ICE agent arresting mommy or daddy? And they're okay with that because it's called indoctrination, people. Who are they gonna hate? Mommy and daddy for breaking the law, being useless excuses for human beings, or the evil ICE agent? So this is clearly a tactic that is used for many purposes, and none of them are good. So to reiterate, there was a national student walkout and they do it on more than just one day, where teacher-led closures were being used as political tools to obstruct immigration enforcement and fuel anti-ICE sentiment. All right, guys, there were over 20 schools in Tucson, for example, that were canceled, and all the kids were out there walking. Hundreds of school of students in various counties, so probably thousands across the nation. Their goal to disrupt traffic and generate high visibility media optics. I think it's starting to backfire. GOP leaders condemned it, orchestrated indoctrination. Perfect word. I like that, and I do agree that they were accusing adults of leading children into danger to advance a radical agenda. So before I start you off with the first discussion point, let's watch the video of one of these in action. And just a scene to show you, we're not talking one or two parents or kids. Give me the thumbs up for the sound, though. As you can see, that weren't a few students. Oh, so the first discussion point is this strategy? to use them as human shields, the forced law enforcement to choose between allowing the illegal disruptions, which is what they want, or appearing to attack minors when they start to go after the parents. Initial thoughts? Start with G.
It's sad that they do that. This is like they're taking a book out of, I don't know, the the Hamas playbook, right? Where they
Yep.
said, okay, well, if you put innocent people in the way, then Israel attacking them, they have a bad PR move. So with that said, like I should stay clear of that. I mean, I honestly, they can come back another day and enforce the law, but why are you going to put look, okay, so one, minors, I mean, people don't think clearly, right? So minors will just think what their parents say or their authority figures. So let's go back to the second shooting with I can't remember his name.
Pretty, pretty,
Preddy,
Alex.
pretty,
Preddy.
pretty.
So, you have one people on one side saying he pulled his gun, so the ICE agents had to react. Okay, that's what some people on the right were saying. You got people on the left saying ICE agents are going around hunting Democrats. We know clearly none of those are true. The reasonable uh, take on it is one of the ICE agents had him on the ground, saw his gun, didn't see his gun anymore because one of the other ICE agents took it, and someone yelled gun, and then he got panicked and then he shot. That's a reasonable take, right? We don't know the truth of it, but you're gonna tell me that 8-year-olds, even 15-year-olds protesting or blocking and disrupting, they're going to understand that nuance? No, they're not. They're not going to understand that. So I think indoctrination is bad. And my advice to ICE agents and Christy Noem is, look, if there are children there, if the Democrats are using them as human shields, just come back another day. You can arrest the person another day.
Okay,
Children
okay,
won't be there
okay.
100
Stop.
100% of the time.
Before I go to you, Annette,
Sure, sure.
what's going? Gee, you know the answer. What are they going to do then every single time?
They're not going to do it every single time. They're going to lose steam. No, you can't keep activism up
Alinsky
that high.
tactic
You
101. When you overuse a message, back off for a period of time. That's all they're going to do.
Right. So that's my that's what I'm trying to say. Like come March, like the steam will be out and then you go back to enforcing and the children won't be there because the Democrats are going to be like, look, it's Easter, I got to go on spring break. I mean, there's ways to do this
God.
without creating another PR disaster.
All right, all right, all right, all right. I got to be honest in that I'm that last line, Democrats and Easter and God and church. Please, please. What are your thoughts? And will it work? And how does the GOP counter this?
I guess my thoughts are if I ever was holding out any hope for the Democrats not to have a total take on our educational system, I sort of lost that hope this week. I totally agree with G. Kids of that age, they're going to believe what the adults around them are saying. Honestly, in sort of black and white, like this is good, this is bad. They're being told, hey, this is good. You're fighting for people. They're taking people. They're ripping apart children from their parents. I mean, they're using all this hyperbole and so the kids really do these young sort of activists that they're trying to sort of the fire inside of people, I think, the thing that they appeal to when they're young like that is their sense of goodness. And I actually believe we all have this sense of goodness, which is a beautiful thing, but they're using that in the most corrupt way. I even saw videos this week of children, really young children, elementary, first grade, second graders in the classroom doing little marches about anti-ICE, holding up signs inside their classrooms, marching around. So I thought, wow, I am I I've always known there was indoctrination happening in the United States with the educational system. I always did think there were pockets of hope there because I guess in the big scope, I used to think to myself, it can't be this prevalent. But this is a very disturbing way to, again, activate within children their sort of moral sense of what's right and wrong.
Well, it's
I find,
indoctrination.
yes, it's very disturbing. It's very troubling.
And they're just lying. They're telling them their version
Of
of
course.
good. Well, here's the problem that some of these parents are finally beginning to face. If you go on Instagram, that's where I've seen it most of the time. Parents are posting videos. I just found out my kid's posted. What the hell? And this guy was driving there, filming himself. He's like, look at that. What the hell? A furry for a teacher? There's a teacher dressed like a furry. They're just throwing it out there. But the thing Parents are now realizing the internet. This is why the both parties want to control the internet because the truth will get out. So if there is any hope, it's kids being exposed to this. Even some Democrats who don't say anything because they don't want to get, ostracized or be treated ill.
Mhm.
They're thinking, I don't want. I'll do this, but not my kid. Not my kid. So, and that's why I'll tell you, I'm gonna repeat it, people. You see blue hair, red hair, green hair, and that's a teacher. Pull your kid out of that class. Period. End of story. My 60, I just turned 60. My 60 years of life, it has never failed. They're all hardcore leftists. Get your kids out. So, final question. Let's make this quick. 30 seconds. What did your kids report when they protested? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The question really is, "Oh, mom, I kicked an ICE agent today." Yeah. The real question is, what would you do if you found out that your child was used to go to a protest? Now, because what's happening is they're just shutting the schools down. They're not, remember how when we were kids, we had to get that permission slip to go on a field trip? They're just throwing that out the window. They don't care about the liability because their emotional hate doesn't allow them to think ahead, including principals. There's a principal who was fired because he was forcing kids to go on these ICE protests for fear of failing them in the class, and teachers too. What would you guys do if you found out that was happening to your child? Gee,
That would be
I, I would go straight. I would go straight to the school board and say this is unacceptable and make a public comment and get people look, if they're forced into it, that's wrong. It's immoral. I think it's unethical. If the kid wanted to do it, I would just have a talk with my child. Go, don't be a part of this. Like have your opinion, but don't be a part of it. Things can go badly there, and you're also being used. I mean, there's a reason. There's the term "useful idiots"
mhm.
out there going back to the 1930s. It's people who know very little but they get wrapped up into one of these marches or something like that and get riled up and their evil politicians will use them for that.
I don't know, G. I gotta be honest. I thought you would have gone Shah Rukh Khan on him. Come on. Yeah. That's
Hey,
yeah.
you couldn't see it on the video, but that's
For
his
the
signature move.
For those who don't know, he's arguably, not even arguably, but India's, I don't want to say greatest, but most famous, most successful, and more than likely the richest actor in India. Wasn't he like number 4 overall
he's
G at
he's
one
the
point?
richest actor in America. He's tied,
Yeah,
or I'm sorry, in the
India.
world,
In the world,
tied.
okay.
No, in the world, tied for number one with I forget his name, but he was tied for number one. He's
All
probably the
right.
most successful actor of all time. But anyways,
Oh,
we
yeah.
digress.
Annette, what would you do?
I that would be the last day my daughter was at that school. Only because I've been in the school system enough and on a school board enough to know that I might not be able to very quickly change the environment of a school that would actually do that. That wouldn't be if the school would actually do that and you'd have administration behind it, I don't think that that's an easy fix. I would pull my child from the school.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, let's move on to the government shutdown, but we're gonna talk about ICE not specifically Minnesota, but how ICE could be the cause for the government shutdown. Democrat leaders are tying Department of Homeland Security funding to what you would call a sweeping set of restrictions on ICE operations. Now, they're claiming the two shootings, which were caused by the individuals who were killed, is the reason. And this is escalating what's going to be a direct clash with Republican leadership and the Trump administration. There's a February 13th deadline looming. Both sides are hardening their positions, and the standoff threatens broader DHS functions and raises the national stakes around immigration enforcement, public safety, and shutdown politics. And what I mean by it threatens broader DHS functions, think T8, is it TSA and FEMA. And we are hitting the winter months of FEMA, lots of storms. Yeah, so let's start where this was all ignited, the two shootings, one city, and the federal surge that changed the equation overnight. So this was the January 7th shooting of Renee Good, who is not a good person, the January 24th shooting death of ICU nurse Alex Preddy, the original, not the AI version, and they were both whacked and taken out after they were caught in what some are calling questionable scenarios. But I believe, and I don't speak for the panel, were legit protesters trying to create havoc, and to epitomize my point, why these protesters are more brainwashed morons. Renee Good's wife, not legally, but by cohabitation, they weren't legally married, was hollering, why didn't you use rubber bullets? Or why weren't they rubber bullets? I mean, nonsense. And to me, that just speaks to the core issue. These people have no clue. Now, the Democrats are using these two examples to try to literally defund ICE. Jeffries, House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, who we all know as Brooklyn Barack, and Chuck Plugs Schumer, they claim that after months of escalation, which is not true, and they claim ICE terrorized communities across the country. That's a quote, terrorized communities across the country, and that they targeted, quote, everyday Americans and law abiding immigrant families, both of which are literally they're not literally, they are lies. This is the backbone of why they say they're doing it. They're saying that that agents are causing chaos, they're using taxpayer dollars, and that they should be making life more affordable for working families. She could probably touch on this, but ICE is doing that, especially with housing, with lower income jobs, with employment. All these numbers are moving in the proper direction by getting rid of these criminals. So the Democrats are literally lying, but they had the mainstream media on their side. Local and regional reporting shows no one appeared on video in Minneapolis wearing tactical gear and accompanying ICE officers during an event. And the reason I bring that up, my friends, is it doesn't help. Christy, you're like that white suburban leftist. Stop helping. You're killing us. So DHS has already made more than 1,000 arrests in Minnesota, which is still lower than what we need. So I gave you my spin, people, on why I think those two individuals passed on. We don't need to spend but a comment or two on this question, but in your opinion, why did these two individuals die? Was it a combination of both ICE and their fault, or were they the antagonists here, or what? The floor is yours, Miss Annette.
Don't you think that they're being used? I didn't like that you used the word morons. I know you believe that, and you're fired up, so you have very strong opinions. I would say they're misguided individuals who actually, I think, believe that they have good intent and then they have good intentions, that they're sort of caring about their neighbors, thinking that these people have perhaps lived here and they're really maybe not criminals, or they do certain jobs and they don't want to see like fractured communities. I mean, I'm just going to try to put out there the potential that some of these people are misguided and believe what they're doing and their protests is for the good of of other people. You
No,
don't
go
think
ahead. I'm
that's
sorry. Go ahead.
what happens? I think what the dirty game is the politicians. They work in the good of others. They've taken that fact that there is, again, like, good intentions. With I think many individuals actually have really good intentions, and they've warped it and they've used it and they've politicized it. And that's what bothers me really about it, is I don't actually believe, as an American citizen, that the government officials in Minneapolis care about those few people who died. I don't think they care about them at all. They just weaponized it. That is what bothers me. I feel bad for I actually feel bad for the people who died. I think it's a very sad, unfortunate circumstance. Yes, they were getting in the way. I mean, why on earth would you be in the middle of the crosshairs of that situation?
Right.
I don't know what you're doing there. I don't understand why you're there. That's why I think it's
Mhm.
really misguided, maybe not moronic, but misguided. But what's really sick about it is the way they've been used.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I'm developing a man crush on Annette, seeing her come around in my thought process. But let me correct you real quick this on Annette.
Sure. You can always correct me. I love it.
I I use the word dumb and moron a bit. And why? Because moron means a person acting with poor judgment or showing a lack of common sense. So when
Yeah.
I use moron or dumb, it's because you're an idiot because you didn't know. That's why I use the term brainwash. Stupid, they knew and they still did it. It's like it's like a kid. Don't touch that light socket. They learn the hard way. Gee, now for you, is ridding the country of what I call illegal alien criminals, that includes rapists, pedophiles, murderers, and criminals in general, not make it better for Americans, including making life through housing, through rent, through jobs, etc., more affordable? Or am I wrong?
No, absolutely. So let's think about that group of people, rapists and pedophiles, murderers. Of course, you got to protect the American people. And you think of Lake and Riley and some of those others who are killed by illegal immigrants. Yeah, it's going to make us safer. I mean, many are killed by immigrants and citizens, so but they don't need to be in this country, right? They can stay in their own country and follow the law and come in, stand in line like my family and I did. We were in line for 10 years. My dad was in line for 10 years. I was in line for 4. I came here when I was 4 years old. But we were in line and we waited and we waited and we waited. There were quotas on people from countries like India. I was born in Canada, but that's where we were waiting across the border, and we didn't sneak in, and we made our way in and lived a great life. That's what everyone should be doing. So yeah, as far as making it affordable, it's just okay. So if you don't think that more people chasing the same number of goods doesn't drive the price of goods up,
Yeah.
if you don't believe that basic economic fact,
Mhm.
then you're politically misguided because that's just an economic fact. Now you have 20 million people in this country fighting for the same housing, whether it's rentals or ownership. They're fighting for the same food. And there's not enough housing. They're saying 5 million homes uh across the country shortage, right? So break up 20 million people into families of 4, that there's 5 million units right there being taken up. And so, yeah, if and rental prices are already going down. They've been going down in the last year. Why? Because there
Mhm.
there vacancies occurring when people are deported, people who shouldn't be here, and it's already occurring. So
Right.
it will make housing cheaper and more affordable for citizens and legal immigrants.
Can I
Right.
add a nugget to that? A quick nugget, really, William?
Yeah, quick
I'm
nugget.
sure maybe you saw this with JD Vance, but crime is down.
Yes. Oh, yeah, crime is down 20%. Murder's, like, down 20%. But, give it to a Democrat, the thing about Democrats is, a rapist. No, that's just a man who loves a woman too much. A murderer, they're just sending them to meet God. Pedophile, they just love children. I mean, that's how the Democrats
Unless you're a white guy. Unless you're a white guy, then you gotta be held accountable.
For
Exactly.
sure.
Final question. This for this segment of this topic. Chrissy Noam. I wanna like her. It's like Pam Bondi. I wanna like you, but stop. Is her ego. I think she's purely ego driven. And I'm not looking now. Here's the problem. Women are too harshly judged. There's a classic term, a man, strong businessman. Oh, that's a strong businessman. Strong businesswoman. What a bitch. I mean, that's the ugly truth of reality. So, and that's why I've held off on Christy Nolan because I'm like, I'm gonna treat her like a man. But I think she's just gone too far, not thinking before she speaks. Even Pam Bondi, you haven't heard anything since her last fiasco. What with the Epstein?
Yeah.
Is Christy Nolan? Does she need to shut up because Trump can't fire her now because the Democrats are demanding it. So he's kind of stuck with the rock and a hard place. Is she hurting us? And what should we do? What should he do about it? Let's start with G. Let's try to keep this under a minute here, and then we'll go to Nat.
Yeah, I know. I think he should keep her in place. And look, like there's this idea. It's called the command of battle or face of battle. I can't remember what the book was, but they're talking about good generals, and good generals are on the front line. Like Alexander the Great, he was the first one in battle and led his troops. So I'm gonna give Christy the benefit of the doubt and just say that that's what she's doing. She's just being the first one in battle and at the forefront, but she doesn't need to do that. So I think Trump should just pull her back but continue the law enforcement. People got to obey our laws.
Right, right. I think the book may be called Supreme Command: Soldier, Statesman, and Leadership in Wartime. Is that the one?
Or Mask of Command. I think it's Mask of Command. John
Gotcha.
Keegan is the
Okay,
author.
okay. Annette, you're as a woman,
So
do you see Christy Nolan? Come on, bleep,
I see
get it together. Or are you like, go girl?
I think less is more sometimes. I guess part of me wish they could I don't know, let me ask you, I guess I have a question to that. Can you coach her up a little bit? I
Can
think
what?
can you coach her up a little bit? I mean, is it just that she doesn't completely understand what she needs to say? Does she need a little bit of help with the talking points?
Coach
Could you
her up.
coach
I'm
her up?
sorry.
Could you coach her up a little bit? You know what I'm saying? Could you support her in her role a little bit?
No, I swear to God, I'm like, coochie. I'm like, what the hell is she saying? Can you coochie her up? That's the sailor in me, people. You're right. You're right. Christy Nome is a strong woman.
Yes.
One of the flaws, men, their flaw are women. Every great man that's been brought to his knees is by a woman. Samson comes to mind.
That is
You
so
know,
true,
uh,
though. That is
uh,
so
uh,
true.
for women, it's their ego because they'd have to be tough over and over. They can't back
Yeah,
down or give an inch, or they'll take a hand. But sometimes they overplay their hand in that sense. She's so she needs to watch herself. My take is simple: you got to sideline her internally, bring her in, shut the hell up. In fact, I don't want you talking for a while. Have your second in command. Enough with the tactical gear. You are not tactical. You are a civilian. You're a tough woman. You've achieved the governorship. You've done more, and you're a role model for women. Don't make yourself a negative for women now. And
that's
that would
right.
be that. Because I think she'd be smart enough to pick that up. So Jeffrey and Schumer, they put a letter together with some core demands. And Democrats believe in their minds they're going to take this fight from the streets of Minnesota to Washington because the letter they're using to rewrite the rules. So this past week, they sent a letter to Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, because it's Congress that deals with getting the government funded. And it's clear legislative actions to rein in ICE and to stop the violence is in the letter, and it's part of the 2026 DHS funding, and it's part of the negotiation. And the letter presents 10 guardrails Democrats want Congress to enact. I'm just going to repeat, I'm just going to go over them, guys, and then we're going to take each one and spend a couple of minutes. Uh, Targeted enforcement, number one. No mask, number two. Requirement of ID, number three. To protect sensitive locations, i.e., schools, hospitals, ICE can't be near them without a lot of conditions. To stop racial profiling, uphold the use of force standards. That's number six. Number seven, ensure state and local coordination and oversight. Oh my God. Sorry. I'm really, in essence, number seven, the state will take over and dictate to the federal what's going to happen. Build safeguards in the system. Body cam for accountability. And number 10, no paramilitary police. That's just a term like the assault weapon, paramilitary. So they say it is critical that we come together to impose common sense reforms and accountability measures. I will tell you, people, I'm okay with a couple of those.
Me too.
They insist these reforms must apply to all federal activity that's going to be funded in this bill, including the big, beautiful bill for border accountability or any other act. So they're saying these 10 items will be retroactive. They don't care where the funding that's been passed, that this will be implemented immediately. And they want to block any workaround that could bypass these limits and to remove Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. They're dictating you will remove your cabinet member because we're in the minority and we're going to shut the government down if you do not do this. And they describe their proposals as common sense. They're just still lie. It's not common sense. A lot of it's undoable or not doable. So operational guardrails on ICE is how you should look at this. So what does reining in ICE actually look like on paper? It's not 1 week. It's going to handcuff how we can operate. Let's talk about the first one, targeted enforcement. And to give you guys a little bit of in the baseball, in the weeds for your notes, the blue is stuff that I think is feasible aspects of it. The red is like, go to hell. In the audience, you don't see this. This is internal. So, under targeted enforcement, what this means, people, is Democrats are demanding that DHS officers be barred from entering private property without a judicial warrant to end indiscriminate arrests, improve warrant procedures and standards, and verify that a person is not a U.S. citizen before placing them in immigration detention. I kind of agree with the last one. If you're there with your driver's license, ID, and they haul you in, you should be able to go to that supervisor and look, here's my stuff, instead of just being thrown in and hauled in. So out of those three there, that's what I agree with. I do not agree with the Democrats demanding DHS officers be barred for entering private property. If they got to go to a school, my point, let me shorten it. We did not take Noriega out and bring him to the States right away because we did not go into the Catholic Church he hid out in. What will happen is, as G alluded to, I don't know if it was off air or on air, they will become Hamas and they will just go to the schools, go to the hospitals and hide out in. Indiscriminate arrests, warrant procedure standards. No, the law is in place for how ICE has to deal with illegal aliens who are not citizens. their due rights are set up differently than a citizen. So no. Thoughts, Annette, on number one?
I agree with you completely that it should be that little. If someone has their ID and can prove that they're a legal person in the United States, I mean, then they shouldn't be sent to a detention. I mean, isn't this is a little bit of common sense to me. I think that absolutely makes sense. We're just doing one at a time here.
Yeah, we'll spend just a
Yeah.
couple minutes. Let's not
And
have a
what
long conversation on it.
I don't wanna do, like you said, is handcuff them from being able to do their job. And I just will quickly say, and G hasn't had a chance to hear about this yet, but, like, we're putting in a policy right now. The state of California is saying every public school has to have a policy regarding ICE. Part of the policy, they're trying to make it, I think, more restrictive, but really it's not that unreasonable because part of the thing that the state wants to do is if they have a warrant, which is to what you're saying, a warrant for a person because they believe they're here illegally, that's okay. They can then go onto campus and they can, apprehend or talk to that person or whatever it is they need to do. So, I mean, there's just reasonable things that can be in place for them to do their jobs. And did
G-Man.
say Tom Homan really quickly, Tom Homan did say that they were specifically targeting people, that they knew who they were looking for, that they
Oh,
knew
Annette,
that.
every single one of these are
Yes,
not blanket sweeps.
right,
These
okay,
are individual warrants.
okay.
And G, to add on, you can send a couple of ununiformed men, in plain clothes, go to the principal, but also have your guards outside the escape plots, like we see on Law and Order every day. You know, your thoughts on number one.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I'll just speak to the last point there about verifying U.S. citizenship. Look, nobody's going around carrying the papers. I don't carry my passport around, my naturalization certificate. I don't do that. A license is not good enough,
Yeah.
right? A
Fair enough.
license
Fair enough.
here, at least in California, if you're here illegally, you can still get a license. Now, I believe real IDs do prove that you're here legally. So I think that requires a higher standard.
Oh,
So
hold on, G. You mean the real ID verification?
Mhm.
Okay, just to
right,
let you know,
but your license says real ID on it.
yeah, to let you know,
Yeah.
in California, at least, it's on your your California's driver's license.
Right. So if you have a real ID, yeah, then just let the guy go, right? Those can be forged. We
True.
would need some way to verify that they're
Verify.
I
not
think
forged.
fingerprint, you
Yeah,
know?
but I do think there's some hologram on the ID that you can verify it, but they just need to verify that the ID is not forged or faked. And
Oh, no,
then,
no, no. Gee, what I'm saying, respond to this. When you get your real ID now, you have to give your fingerprint, I think. Oh, no, I didn't get my fingerprint when I got it.
I don't remember giving
No,
my
no, no. I
fingerprint.
just got mine. I did not, but they had fingerprint on there. Oh, I apologize. All right. Any final comment on that?
No, that's it.
Okay, so Annette and I are tough. G wants to protect it. No, I'm kidding. G, that's a valid point because you're absolutely right. When I was when I was
No,
16,
I'm actually tougher. I
no, you're
detain
right,
them
G. You're
even if
right.
they can't prove it.
At 16, I had a illegal driver's license,
That's a good
so I
point.
could buy beer. I never used it till like a little bit later because I couldn't even grow a mustache. The no mask provision. This will prohibit ICE and immigration enforcement from wearing face coverings. To me, that's a non-starter. Why? Because Democrats, including Democrat politicians, have doxed them. And if they remove that no mask, then I'm okay with let's dox the politician. Maxine Waters is heading to the Bahamas in a bikini. Go get her, people. You know, address. I'm okay with that because that's the game they're playing. So I'm like, no, until Democrats start protecting ICE agents and demanding of these people to stop attacking them, stop throwing stuff at them, you keep those masks on because they want to find out who they are and dox them. The proof, they're tracking them down to hotels. And when they do find out the houses, they're going to those homes. So to me, that's a hard no. Gee, go with you on this one.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was Pablo Escobar or El Chapo, but the people who arrested him the first time around, they didn't wear masks, and a year later, every single one of them, I think there were 20 or 30 of them, were dead.
Yeah.
So that's the extreme form of doxing. But in
Mhm.
this country, like who knows what lengths people will go to because they're labeling this a human rights issue,
Yeah.
It's
and
not. It's
they
not.
can take it to this extreme and say we're saving lives, so we got to take this ICE agent's life to save other people's lives. That's how extreme these guys can get.
Annette.
They already have the most thankless job. I mean, it's dangerous for them not to have their protection in that way.
All right, let's move on. Protect sensitive locations. This would ban use of funds for enforcement in near medical facilities, schools. We kind of talked about it already.
Yeah.
Uh, to me, no, they have every right to go in
Yes.
there, but common sense and respect for the children, for the patients in medical care, and for the church goers. You go in there, hey, boss, Jose over there. We can talk to him now or wait till afterwards. But we're going to keep an eye on him. We don't need to pull a Christy Noah, hoorah, and go in there, guns a blazing. So to me, this is something that I would not do, but I would put in place a guideline. First step, try to figure out how to do this in a non-violent manner. And I say non-violent because the moment they get up to run, that's violent. It's not violence to attack you, but it's an act that immediately leads to violence. So I would view that as violent. Let's go with you, Annette.
Yes, respect the environment, I feel like is what you're saying, whether it's a hospital or a school. And even in this, policy I'm talking about, they're saying, in public spaces, you can't say that ICE can't be there. And it depends on what the private spaces are like. But I think, again, it's just like you can't prohibit them or from doing their job.
Right.
So we
And
have to
that you're
say,
right.
so
That's your
that would
goal, Annette. That's your goal
I
is
know.
to prohibit.
Of course that is what they're doing. But like you're saying, if the agents themselves are respectful of those environments, they have a job to do.
Correct. Correct. G-Man.
Yeah. So they're trying to get this codified by Trump. And what's going to happen is, y- okay, well, now where can they be safe? Where are the sanctuary locations that they can go? Schools, medical facilities, childcare facilities. If you're there, they can't do anything. So just, those are the hot spots where you can run to if you're being followed or whatever. So I think it's a non starter
Yeah.
that you codify that into law. But I think following the spirit of it without saying that you're going to be doing that is important because we don't need to disrupt a school with 30 armed ICE agents going in and,
Right.
in the front of kindergartners taking someone into custody. I will question one thing. So the Democrats here in California are trying to push a law to make it illegal for ICE to enforce immigration at polling places.
That gives
Is
it
anyone thinking here? Okay, they also say illegal immigrants do not vote and legal immigrants cannot vote if you're not a citizen. So they're admitting something here. Open our eyes, people.
right. And back, Annette, to you just let you know, this is why I call it moron, because they're not thinking that. Well, number 6, code use of force standards seeks to codify a reasonable use of force policy, ban training certification, and require officers involved in use of force incidents be removed from the field. That's a hard no for me for the simple
Wait,
fact.
I agree with that one.
No, that's fine. We'll get to you. That's a
But
hard no because we can. It doesn't matter what the policy is, which is already in place that
Mhm.
Democrats want. They just want to use this as an excuse to not allow ICE to defend themselves. The policy is already in place and how to interact. Expand training certification. They already have training, and that's internal. Hey guys, we need to go through more training. My point being is, this is where you give them a hand. And you say, okay, they're going to take an arm. Well, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. And these are civilians. Civilians. These are the type of people, Democrat politicians and some Republicans. Why didn't you shoot him in the leg, man? Because this big ass mass in the middle is much quicker and easier to hit. They don't understand basics. They would make this political and require that officers involved in use of force incidents be removed from the field. No, that's an internal decision for the supervisors to make. Because what will quickly happen, you see all the incidents happening. In one setting, 2/3 of those officers would be forcibly removed because of that policy, just because they were involved. They may not have done nothing, but because they were there, well, we just want to be safe. Democrats will always take an arm. This is a political request here. All right, we'll start with you, G. Then we'll go to Annette.
Yeah, it's a no for me as well. And when you think of the two incidences that are burning in people's minds, Annette was asked the question, but I got a different question. But I will say those two people died because of the governor of Minnesota basically said
That's right.
police will not help the ICE.
That's
So
true.
police, they're peace officers. They keep the peace.
That's
They
right.
would have told these guys, both good and pretty, hey, keep your distance. They're doing a lawful activity, and you'll be breaking the law if you get near them. There was no barrier there, and so that's why they died. Is because they were encouraged by their Democrat politicians to get in these ICE officers' faces and basically resist them. Well, if I bum rush a police officer, I'll probably be shot. Now that doesn't mean he has the right to shoot me, but he's probably going to be in fear of his life, and he's going to pull his gun because he has no idea what I'm trying to do. And so that's what's happening. It's a bunch of misunderstandings and people acting in fear, and shootings happen. So
Right.
it's the governor's fault. He should have recognized that. But I think he wanted this to happen because now he can get everyone riled up. And now you see what's happening today. You got
Right.
children protesting.
That's right. That's right. So, Miss Annette,
Well, what is the level of training for these ICE agents? I guess that would be the question. You're saying they already have a significant amount of training. I was thinking, well, is more training necessary so these things don't happen? But to your point, isn't it interesting that they've happened in one area twice, where Tim Walz is the governor and the mayor of Minneapolis is a complete, I don't even know how what would be the right word. I don't wanna say anything too disparaging, but,
Looney Tune.
yeah, he's a nut. So, yeah, maybe I just feel like
training is not static, Annette, just to let you know. So, for example, in SEAL training, they would teach them how to kill literally at buds, basically, no, and that's before they become SEALs. And what they
mhm,
found, some of these moves they were teaching, these guys would go half cocked at a bar, 18, 19-year-olds, and just figured learn this and do it on a civilian picking a fight. So they kind of stopped that portion. And the
yeah,
point, reason I'm saying that, then they
mhm.
brought in different form. They brought in at one time a martial arts instructor to teach the kids the leverage points. So it's always evolving. It's always changing. They're
Oh,
always trying to improve it, including safety. They went from boots to shoes, to back to boots to shoes. I mean, tennis shoes, etc.
yes.
So that's another reason I disagree.
It's a moving target, yeah.
Yeah, because the military, they want safety. Why do they want safety? Not because they care about the protesters or the enemy. They want safety for their own troops. You don't want to do this because you put yourself in this dangerous position, or you do this, or you got to think with your head clearly. So just to let you know, they view this, Democrats and civilians in general, as static. And it's not. It's always evolving and changing, going up and down the scale, depending on the type
So
of.
do you have any idea how much training these ICE officers have
No, I don't, but I
in
do
on
understand the
field?
military, and
Mhm,
the police have learned from the military as well with their training. So there are standards that the government has used, and my assumption, and maybe I should have looked at it, but they are being trained. Are they being now, maybe what you could do is, are they ready to be put in the field? Or they need to redo that training? So, and
mhm.
that my point to you is, they don't need the government to tell them to do this. The government kind of does that. They
Okay,
always
I
have
see what you're
review
saying.
programs. They always, the superheroes come in. Hey man, Tom and Dick and Harry over here. They're just not getting it. But gee, woo, let's
So
set them up to another level there.
William, let me ask you very quickly. If that was like an elite force in the military, if it wasn't ICE, it was like the caliber of like the SEAL team or something, SEAL Team 6. Now SEAL Team 6 is ICE. Would those incidents still have happened? Do
Oh,
you
they'd all be dead today.
but those incidents
Dead, dead group would not mess around. Take him
I
out.
I guess you're saying those incidents didn't happen because of a lack of training. And that
No,
in my
those incidents specifically happened because the protesters interjected themselves into the situation. Then the problem with civilians is, these men are not robots. If they've been attacked, thrown rocks, they're already apprehensive. Who's coming in next time? That's
yeah,
human nature. You
of
cannot
course.
train against that.
No, I
You
get it.
know.
Okay.
All right, number 8. So everybody, Annette's spine is stiffened up again. Yeah, she's with us. Build safeguards into the system. Now, it would mandate that all detention facilities must meet basic standards. Hey, I'm all for that. I have my bad days. Murderer, throw them on the chain gang now. But for the illegals, yeah. I mean, you got to you got to put them in. These are families with criminals. Just separate the criminals, but make sure those facilities are up to speed, because they are innocent until proven guilty. No different than jails for the American citizens. Now, include immediate access to an attorney to prevent wrongful arrest or detention of citizens. Nope. We have our laws. We're not going to have, because that's going to bog the system down. Attorney. There's 150 attorneys. They're not, I mean, the system gets bogged down. We have a system in place. Allow states to sue DHS for violations. No, but I will change that if we can personally sue the politicians. So, for example, if I could sue, hey, Tim Waltz, by not allowing the police force to go in there and help
Mhm.
out, is why my kid's dead. because then you see what I'm saying, tit for tat. And the reason I say
Right.
that, okay,
There's
so
accountability.
yeah, but in essence, no, you can't, because then they'll be suing for everything, and there'll be so many lies. Prohibit limits on member visits to ICE facilities, regardless of funding source. I'm like, no, no, but I don't quite understand that one. I'm assuming it wants to prohibit ICE, maybe in that sense, but I wasn't sure. But if it's to prohibit limits on member visits, maybe you guys could consider figure that one out. But the first two, I'm a hard no. The first one, I'm good with. G.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to treat people like people and basic human beings, and providing modern standards. Basic standards, but I think we're trying to get them out of here and go back to their country where they should be and wait in line and come in legally. But I think we should treat people like people. I don't think we should. So we need to make sure that happens. Now, do we let journalists get in there and do that? I don't think so. I mean, that
Oh, let me pause you
they'll,
there. Let me pause
yeah,
you. I just looked it up. Prohibit limits on members' visits. They said if a politician wants to enter the facilities, they can't be stopped. That's what that means.
okay, yeah,
And I would toss journalists in that same. No,
yeah.
you're not coming in, not to hide. It's just you guys are gonna be here every day to obstruct.
Yeah, and to make it a political issue, right? Because they clearly aren't into a Republican deporting illegal immigrants. Now, if it was a Democrat doing it, oh, silence, crickets, right? I mean,
Yeah, they
Obama,
love the cages. They love the cages, though.
right? And
Dude,
Obama deported twice as many people as Trump, and I didn't see any protests happening then, or any governor saying, "Hey, you know, get in Obama's ICE agents' faces and stop them." So clearly,
gotcha.
it is a political thing against Trump. This is a TDS happening right now.
It's just I mean, I can't add anything better. I agree with what she said. I would just also add that isn't it a shame that we've gotten to the point, and we've been here for a little while now, that we have no journalistic integrity? People just trying to be objectively tell a story to the best of their ability, realizing that nobody can be perfectly objective, of course. But now we know there's only a bias, and they come in with the bias. They have only one story to tell, and that's really where we're at as a society, and that is why people are so confused.
You
Part of
know
the
what I
reason
would do? I would
what?
allow them. I would set aside, pick 10 of them that Eagles coming to an open center. But I
Mhm.
would sit there for every ABC News. I would have a townhall.com
Correspondent. Okay.
correspondent align them. That way, what are we going to get from you? And they would all be recorded and taped.
How
And
we
that
do
would,
there's a way around that.
and that's what I mean. You work with them, but as carte blanche is what they want. No. All right. The body cameras. Look, I'm not even going to read this because I agree with them.
This is the
I
end,
got
yeah.
I got in a heated discussion with my friend, God rest, not God rest, he's not dead. He's retired. He retired from the police force. He was like, he was angry. They were dictating to him that he had to wear one. I said, dude, how many? Because it was at the time the black issue. Remember, racism, this, that. And the first few reports that came in, once the body cams showed that these black individuals that were being arrested or stopped, they were the guilty ones. And they were playing the race card. Notice you don't hear much anymore about, he stopped me because I was black. No, because they can't, because now there's the evidence. I stopped you because you see this little camera? It shows you blowing by 85 miles an hour, not the 45 you just said, or he arrested me because I was black. And the cop's like, last I looked, I was black. None of that can be sit there and hidden. And so I would welcome this because I'm sorry, as a Latino, I know Jose the illegal. Come on, SA. That body cam, Democrats are forced into a corner to defend the indefensible. So bring on the body cams, people. Gee.
Yeah, I mean, I always say at my church they would have cameras in the children's ministry areas, and I would say that that's great because it's not for the protection of the children only. It's for the protection of the teachers, where a
Mhm.
child might say something and then all of a sudden you think, oh, that teacher just did something. So it's for protection on both sides. So this is a great example of the same thing. Like you just gave that example as well. Look, they can't be accused of something wrong if there's video evidence that shows something to the contrary. For example, with Good, I mean, the different iPhone angles made it a little hard to see, but to me, it was pretty clear that she was trying to ram him because she left her wife on the side of the car, and then she started going, lurched the car forward. But if he had his body cam footage there too, then that would only add to the evidence. I think he was filming with his iPhone, and it did show that she was coming towards him. Whether that was intentional or not, it's impossible to prove. But why would she leave her wife behind and just gun it out of there? Like, there was clearly an intent of something there. So the body cam footage, I think, would be very important for their safety.
Exactly. Senorita Annette.
I can't add much more to that. I think it's incredibly helpful.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All right. So these solutions do not seem to be in good faith. Would you two agree on that? Or do you think they are in good faith here? Gee, real quick, 10 seconds.
I think some of them are in good faith, but of course uh, uh, you pepper a bunch of lies with some truth and make it more palatable.
Annette, how realistically are these demands in terms of being able to get them all passed?
Gee, I hope they don't get them all passed. I mean, I hope, like anything else, there's some like negotiation back and forth here. Like, this is reasonable and this is not as reasonable. And we're going to come to some sort of compromise.
Exactly. Got it. All right. All right. Democrats aren't just swinging policy or attempting to, they're betting the numbers in the shutdown clock are on their side. Jeffries and Schumer, they're preparing for what they call bipartisan negotiations, which is more realistically called demands. And they're trying to capitalize on the backlash, which is why Trump is pulling back on ICE, because they do have the upper hand because they're morons who are listening to them, uninformed by morons. Ipsos poll conducted in January 30th found that 62% of Americans say current ICE efforts to deal with unauthorized immigration go too far. An important note to realize, they're not saying they should stop. They're just saying they go too far because 80 plus polling percent shows that Americans still want this to happen. And that same polling shows a 10-point jump among Republicans who now say ICE has gone too far, from 20 to 30% in 1 week following the Minneapolis shootings. Again, morons, people who are uneducated and don't want to learn. When uneducated, I do not mean scholastically, I mean common sense. So, Senator Patty Murray, if you ever need a leftist, there's Patty Murray. Most people don't even know who she is. Maybe not the best example, but regardless, she said Democrats, quote, are focused on getting a bill, but it has to be a bill that reins in the abuses that we are seeing by ICE and CBP. The only abuse, unquote, the only abuse I see is by Patty Murray, allowing Americans to get raped, killed, mugged, murdered. Now, Jeffries insisted, quote, we need to resolve this issue by February 13th, unquote. Now, he does he's just, those are just empty words, because I believe they're willing to hold out because they're in the minority. And again, Jeffries is flat out lying. American citizens are being killed in the streets. Well, technically, he's right on that, but he's lying by alluding that they're innocent. They're not innocent. They put themselves in the position that got them killed. Cop says stand down, you stand down. You don't start throwing, and you don't start being Sir Lancelot thinking you're going to sit there and protect a woman with a gun in a violent situation. They're also saying, quote, children are being kidnapped, unquote, which is a lie. Children are not being kidnapped. What's happening is, oh, your essay, your mama's an illegal. She's got to go home. You want the kid to stay here? I'm taking my kid. So they're not being kidnapped. And houses of worship, schools, and hospitals are being stormed. Yes, a house of worship was stormed by Don Knotts. I'm sorry, Don Lemon. May as well be Don Knotts and leftists and progressive. So yeah, Jeffries, we can come together with that and arrest those effers. I'm not going to curse on here. That's as close as I can get to cursing. So they're talking to resist and not fun, but yet claim they're going to be negotiating. And on the other side, Republicans are saying this isn't reform, it's sabotage, and they're drawing their own red lines. I wasn't a fan of this young woman, Senator Katie Britt, because she's more rhino than conservative, but she's leading the talk, so she's talking hard, and she blasted Jeffries and Schumer, quote, a ridiculous Christmas list of demands for the press, unquote. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I hope she's scorned and keeps going. Speaker Mike Johnson argued that Democrats' warrant demand is unworkable, saying they, quote, want to have a judicial warrant on top of the immigration judge warrant, unquote. And, quote, we can't do that, unquote, because of time constraints. As we said earlier, that nobody would be deported and their voter base would remain intact. That's right. That's right. You heard me. Johnson said to a body of cameras, it's not really good faith. and he's already rejected the face mask ban, and because of what we said earlier, because of the doxing and they're being targeted. So what's happening is the lines are being set. Now, Democrats have not yet turned their proposal into legislative text, and Republicans haven't neither. So we literally, I mean, we're already behind the eight ball. These people move slower than the turtle racing the bunny, you know? So they need to get on it. But Johnson warned that if DHS funding lapses, Democrats are going to be shutting down FEMA, which handles many winter storm cleanups, TSA, which is airport operations, and including Coast Guard functions, which includes drug interdiction. And they keep they're the police on the shore, in essence, you know, at the shoreline with boats, etc. And they do a lot of rescuing that never gets publicized. But the one big beautiful bill does guarantee 75 billion in supplemental funding, thus allowing ICE to keep running, even if other DHS components were hit. And that means ICE would continue to operate. All right, guys, I want y'all to put on your consulting hats. Is it time to roll out Elon and other donor dollars and begin a PR campaign focusing on FEMA, TSA, and Coast Guard shutdowns as a direct impact that could cause the deaths of Americans? Annette.
I was just gonna say that we should get a hold of the narrative here. It's almost an opportunity to do just that, because look at the impact that that would have on, massive hundreds of thousands of people. And it just shows how little they really care. I just wish I could believe that they actually cared, but they just put the screws on. They politicize these situations. Meanwhile, not any concern for the other people. Like you said, there was a FEMA, there was a crisis for human beings where there was some other, snow event, whatever might happen, where FEMA's necessary component to help save human beings. It's just that is the way they try to get their way. And I was thinking, if we could get a hold of the narrative, William, and I'll say it very quickly, that has to do with the fact that yes, okay, we think some reforms might be necessary, because that's okay to say. That's okay to say, because then the people, even that are Republican, that might feel like, have we gone a little bit too far here? Maybe we need, it just sounds good to say we've reformed it a little bit. That's a good thing. That's a good message to get out there.
Correct, correct. I disagree, but it's a good, I mean, I agree with you. I'm saying in my heart, they had done nothing wrong. But for PR, I completely agree with you.
Yes. So that's where I'm at. I think that could be, we need to sort of like get a hold of the narrative here. This
All
could be
right.
an opportunity to do that.
All right, G, is one tactic, and we're going to go about 5 minutes overall, and we'll close the show out, and then look for the next podcast, and we're going to be talking specifically about Epstein. But G, should we be? Is one tactic to focus on the illegal aliens who have murdered Americans? Start making those illegals famous, showing their face, showing the brutality of what they've done, and that the protesters and Democrats are this is who and what they are protecting, and they don't care if you die. And just, I mean, every video, the commercial license drivers, the types that have murdered the Lake and Rileys, the ones that have raped. Is that a legit tactic to take?
Yeah, I mean, they've done that, right? And I believe it was during the
Not
election season,
coordinated,
Trump
not
won.
in a coordinated fashion. And this is
No, not in
midterms.
a coordinated fashion.
Trump coordinated his campaign. I meant as a party, because we have midterms and Trump's not on the ballot.
No, he's not, but he is because it's going to be a referendum on him.
Yeah.
But I do think, yeah, they should trot that out, but they have to be careful because what they're going. A lot of these illegal immigrants who should be deported are not murderers and they're not violent, right? They're here just to work. But again, they cut in front of the line. There are plenty of legal immigrants who now, because of all of our resources being strained across the country, and people think, oh, we're so rich, we don't have limited resources. No, we do. There is being strained. That line is becoming, shorter and shorter and harder to get through. So you got to deport the ones who are not violent as well. So, but if you make the face of any illegal immigrant, the guy who killed Lake and Riley, then you run a risk of going too far with that as well. So,
But
but I
this
do
is a
agree
PR
that
battle, G.
we need to modify our PR big time because I believe even Democrats were 70% in favor of deporting illegal immigrants if they've committed violent felonies. Even the Republicans were like 55%, like ICE has gone too far. I mean,
Right.
majority Republicans.
Right. So, G, the problem with that is I agree with you. They need to go but you're not going to win a campaign by showing a hardworking picking strawberries or
Right.
or
Right.
cleaning
Right.
somebody's toilet
It's true.
or carrying somebody. They're going to go, ah, no. You make the face of the campaign the who I said. Be real quick. We're going to spend 2 minutes here only because I'm going to make the comment. I want your quick reaction to my comment. I grew up as a liberal, and one of the first books I bought because I was told about it. I'm 21, 22, or maybe it was later on, but early on, the Sal Alinsky's book.
Rules for
Donor, yes, rules for radical. Everybody should read that book. Donor back PR on FEMA, TSA, Coast Guard. Rule number 4: make them live up to their own rules. Force them to make the statement that they claim to care about public safety and workers, yet their ICE stunt is threatening American lives. You make that the core issue that Democrats are threatening the death of American lives. Rule number 11: push the negative until it flips. Hammer their shutdown risk so hard that the villain flips from ICE to the people that are endangering not only our national security, but Americans. Those two rules, in and of itself, are created to shift the focus on the Democrats and the protesters. Now, gee, you already said we can't go too far. That's not going too far because that is true. You're saying, okay, it's not the whole truth, but it's not going too far. You kind of responded. I'll get your 10-second comment. But Miss Annette, where does
No.
your spine blow with the wind? No, we're going to go back to you, G. Don't worry.
Okay.
Oh, with that as an idea, with that as a tactic,
Yes.
so I think we need to take hold of the narrative, but in terms of putting a face, to crimes that are committed, I like the tactic more. The Democrats don't care about your safety. The Democrats don't care about the snowstorm and, you know what I mean, about individuals and Americans and, you know, like they wanna politicize this and they'll screw you to do it. That's the story that I like because I
But that's
think,
what I'm talking about. See,
okay, look,
Annette, you can't do that going G's route. Showing
you think we need to use the faces of the people who are the criminals?
when I
Is
say the
that
face, I meant it needs to point to them. However, the PR campaign rolls that out could be a variety of ways. But yes, let me give you one quick example. Then we're going to go to G. I apologize.
curious? Yeah.
Is Abrego Garcia. The public itself, get him out of here. But it was the activist judges and the Democrats who were on his side, and it was the activist judges who keep freeing them. The polling people were like, no, get him out. Well, you said, no, this guy's a sex trafficker. Who's this? Oh, yeah, he's got to go. And the reason I say that is the people are going to be voting. It's not going to be an activist judge voting. It's not going to be the
Right.
Democrat politician voting. So that tactic does work. And it's a righteous tactic because we're not lying.
Right, right.
All right, G, let's go
No,
back to you, brother. Shahrukh Khan.
I
Warning.
agree. Well, look, I agree. I'm just a guy who wants to treat people fairly, right? But I
Right.
agree that when you run a campaign, you can't be fair. You got to advocate for your side only, for your candidacy only, for your party only. And I believe many times Republicans try to be fair, Republicans and conservatives like me, because many of us have a very Christian-based belief. But
Mm,
sometimes we forget that the Democrats, a lot of them, and I would say most of them, while some of them do have a Christian-based belief, a lot of them don't,
yeah.
and they're very like do anything it takes to win and make up any lie, and take any situation and stretch it to the extreme, like ICE is going around and basically gunning down innocent citizens.
She'll take
Right,
It's
it.
like
right,
that's
right.
not true,
But
right?
that's not
So
true, though. That's not
yeah,
true.
but we've got to fight. We
Yeah.
got to fight maybe with their same tactics and try to win this thing.
Exactly. And
One
you fight
other
with the
thing I will
truth.
say, not just murderers and rapists, but they're also causing our health insurance premiums to go up because the hospitals at night, their emergency rooms are filled with people who will never pay, and they're just coming there to get the free health care. Well, hospitals still have to pay the nurses. They still got to pay
No,
the
you're right. That's
custodians,
that's
the
a
doctors,
tactic. That's
and
a
that
tactic.
those costs get pushed onto us. So that also needs to be part of the message because that includes all of them who go to emergency room, not just murderers and rapists.
Right. And that comes with my next Saul Alinsky tactic, rule number 8 and 10. Keep constant pressure. Enter Elon and our 11 other billionaire donors. You use them to start coming in, putting in the money to do rule number 1. Power is what they think you had. use their power that we actually have a big donor to sit there and start funding these campaigns, these media messages, and shaping how opponents act, meaning they have to react to what these guys are doing. They have to react to, well, Elon, the G man Musk, just said these hospitals, they're forced to answer those questions. So I think that is where your stuff falls in. But overall, highlight the specific illegal offenders. It's like a movie. Man, that movie looks awesome. They don't care if they showed you every exciting action scene and you leave the movie. Man, that sucked. I saw the whole movie, the previews. They got you to the movies to go pay for it to see it. And that's what I'm talking about here. And that's what I mean by Rule 13. You pick the target, you freeze it, you find the Abrego Garcias, you talk to those Gold Star families, you get them to go public. Do you not think Trump having those 5 women that Clinton did misdeeds to at the debate did not affect? All of a sudden, Hillary's like, oh shit. And Bill Clinton was, So yes, it does work. And with the transgender in sports, every message, boom, 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 help Donald Trump. And that's what we need to do. Pick the largest, freeze it, personalize it. Democrats are blocking ICE and Americans, and this woman was killed because of it. This guy was released because of Tim Walz, and this man was you. People don't get generalities, but they understand specifics, because with specifics, you're putting a face to it. And rule number 5, ridicule as a weapon. Expose the gap. Again, when you got them cornered, they have to answer the question, and they're flat out lying, you expose that, and you mock it. You mock it. These are the people you marched for and shielded from ICE. You embarrass these activists. So, for example, I'm not going to say his name, so please don't say it, but there's somebody I would be attacking all these Christian women. Really? That's who you're working for? That man who lied here, who used this lie to make you believe this, and I would have specifics, because I've thought about this actually. And I know all the specifics I would use. You attack the people and you shame them into putting their head. It's like your kid. You shame your kid into doing the right thing. Why? They're not smart enough to think. And that's why, again, I say morons, because they want to do good in that. So they're willing to believe the lie. And in their minds, they want to do good. So it's easy to believe that lie. You shame them into the truth. Take them outside of their comfort zone. You drag and debate from abstract systems. I know for a fact in there's some days you won't admit it, but you probably said, bleep Willie, how he challenged me or made me do that on the show. And I'm like, no, I'm doing that for your own good in that. It's going to toughen you up. So when you're in actual debate, damn, I beat the hell out of that man. William taught me to like violence. But you see my point. My point is you take him out of that comfort zone. You make them face reality. I once had this young liberal of my roommate, telling me we were talking race issues. And I pointed out, I don't know if you guys remember, that little 2-year-old girl who was hating and calling the cop names. And I was just hammering to her. That's not a gene. That's not a white supremacist gene. If you say there's a white supremacist gene, what'd you call that gene? I go, that's not a gene. There is no gene of hate. That's bad parenting, parents who hate teaching their kids. And then I wouldn't let her move from the argument until she answered that question as to why that 2-year-old black child was denigrating and yelling and screaming at cops. And it had nothing to do with black. It had everything to do with the parenting, teaching hate. And I caught her out. And if looks could kill, I would have been disintegrated. And maybe she didn't believe me at the end, but if she had to face that truth. And in her mind, she knew I was right. So that's what we need to do.
Do you
Any final
think that changed her opinion?
I think for every 10 people, I'm purely speculating anecdotally, it'll
Mhm.
change. It'll get 5 to 6. We'll say 5 people to think.
Mhm.
Out of those 10 people, 5 will think, 3 will go, oh shit. 1 or 2 are going to go, he's right, and start researching the other side. Change is not overnight. Change
No, it's
takes
not.
time.
It
It's
does.
slow. Any final comments on my tactics here?
No, I mean, I think you got to play with the rules, right? Because they're obviously playing with theirs. The one caveat is they've been losing, so the
Yeah.
other
Have
side
they?
has been losing.
No,
But
they haven't,
Trump,
G. Well, hold on. I want you to respond to
but
this. They
no, no.
haven't been
What
losing.
I'll say is Trump has been using a lot of these rules, and he keeps his foot on the gas and keeps pushing, and he's been winning, right? So you know, so I
Well,
think with this to win the narrative back over, you've got to you've got to make like what happened. The two shootings were a tragedy, but you've got to highlight other tragedies out there that okay, this is unfortunate. Nobody wants this to happen, but we also don't want all of this other stuff to happen, which the list is 100 times longer.
Right. Okay. So let me destroy you here real quick.
Agreed.
Trump is one man. He's
Yeah.
using that, and he got elected. If they were losing, we would have won in New York. We would have won in Miami. We would have won other races around the country in 2025, and we did not. Most people, even Michael Jordan, needed a supporting cast. And I am specifically referring to the Republican Party here. To the useless, pathetic excuses of a human being, Thomas Massey, to the selfishness of Rand Paul, people who looked at their grift, at making money, at being seen as, I am the moral politician, when in reality, their no votes or their inaction is actually hurting us long term. I'm referring to the party. You're right about Trump, but is the Republican Party doing what Trump is doing? No, it's a simple no. Annette, your final thoughts on this before I close
Just
it
really
out.
quickly, I like your idea, with the exception of the billionaires, their contribution. I just feel like that already is a bad look, and I would want to get away from that. If there was another way to fund what you want to, the narrative that you want to get out there, I would not be it with the billionaires club.
Okay,
I
stop. Answer this question.
okay.
Who's going to fund all this then? If Elon Musk and other billionaires don't fund it, because I'll tell you now, we did a podcast on it about a year ago. The Democrats have like 36, 35, 36 billionaires funding their candidates. So if we take our billionaires out, how will you? I said put your consulting cap on. Annette, what are you going to tell them how to fund themselves?
Could we get the American people to fund it?
No.
Why not?
History tells us they won't. History tells us we are always outgunned and outmanned. Trump, the last two presidential elections, he was outgunned and outmanned. Within 12 days, they raised $1 billion for Kamala Harris, remember?
No, I
Yeah.
do.
So I ask you again, how will you as a consultant tell the Republican Party, Elon, give me that invite. We don't need Elon. This is what we're going to do. The floor is yours.
Is it gonna cost that much money? I would ask that question. Will it cost
We're talking a midterms,
a
a
campaign?
national election. We're talking a national election.
Then what about the party, the Republican Party? Don't tell me that. Just like you said, the Democrats have a wealthy party. The Republican money from the the Republican caucus.
That's not going to work. History shows you need more than that. Gee, what was the Supreme Court decision that made all this possible for billionaires to form PACs? I forget what decision it was, but that happened when we were kids in high school, like 8th, 9th, 10th grade.
Well, it was
Is
the funding limits that you could give to a particular candidate
right,
as an
right,
individual, but there
right,
was
We're
no
talking
such
about
funding limit for a PAC.
we're talking
right.
about campaign though, William, right? You want a campaign out
They get funded by PACs. They get funded by PACs. If you or G run for office, it's not going to be an individual who funds you because they're going to be limited. That
right.
individual is going to create a
You
PAC
have I know.
and put all the money in the PAC.
I
Yeah,
That's
know.
how it's done.
yeah, but that doesn't fund the campaign. It funds the message that supports the campaign, which is
And that's
different.
what I'm referring to.
Yeah, yeah.
You think that the messaging would require billionaires to be funding that messaging so they would
No,
get enough
no, it would require that the messaging be funded. And I'm saying right now, the only deep pockets that can fund it to overtake the Democrats controlling of the message, because the Democrats have the richest donor in the
base
world to fund
Mhm.
them. And who was that?
George Soros?
The mainstream media. See, we're fighting against the mainstream media. And again, my point, oh, mainstream media is dead, is it? When I found that statistic that 60% of people still felt the Republicans were responsible for the shutdown, New York, we lost. Tennessee, I think we should have won that by 10 points. We won by like a few points. Miami,
I
we lost. In other places, Virginia, we lost. You know, we're fighting the mainstream media. They are still effective towards that older vote. The young kids aren't voting as much as the older kids. I mean, older people still outside of pockets like what Mamdani was able to do or what
There's a lot
Obama did with young
of
blacks.
class remorse from Mandani, as you know.
It did, no, no. People can talk nonsense. There's no data, no nothing. That's like the Trump person, the Democrat. You know, I've been talking to a lot of Trump people. Really, who? Name me one of your Trump friends. We don't know, and people can. It doesn't matter what they say; it's how they vote. And if you get a poll that consistently, poll after poll after poll, that shows that consistently, that's one thing. But anecdotal or talking heads, no. I am sure there is nobody who has buyer's remorse right now because that whole group of people who bought into Mamdani, we're buying into a lie. And if they couldn't put 1 + 1 = 2, and 1 + 1 means I can be lazy and not work and I still get funded, they're going to believe that lie until they're literally in poverty. So no, but you're still not answering the question.
Okay.
What viable vehicle can fund this mass message?
Well, I guess you have basically taken all of my ideas and said that they are worthless. So I guess
I didn't say they're worthless because they can all work in conjunction. What I am taking the win out of your sails is this moral belief that we can do it the right way. This is war. Big John could never, my former partner, could never understand when I would tell him war is the last resort. Because when war, you go to war, it's like you don't want to know how the sausage is made in war because war is the ugliest, dirtiest, most ungodly thing you will do. And even God says, smite your enemy, mom, child, and children. War is hell. We view war now as a tactic, and it's not. And that's what politics are, is a form of war. We've lost this state because the Republican Party in this state of California allowed the consultant class to come in and put the consultant class and their financial pockets ahead of winning the races. And as long as this class of Republicans stayed in power, they didn't care because they were making more than enough money to not have to worry about it. So forgive me if
no,
I don't look at our morality in this fight.
that's a very good point. I think the political consultants did hurt the party. I
All
think
right.
we lost
Go ahead.
lost the messaging. We
Gotcha.
lost the messaging that people felt that they could relate to us. But I think we're getting it back, and Trump at the moment is making it a little bit more challenging for us.
We are at halftime. Trump was right before halftime. Man, we're coming back. Third quarter started, and the Democrats have come out and scored a TD.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh hell, we were coming back here. What's happening? All right, people, that's our show. That's our show for the night. We hope you enjoyed it. We knocked out these 10 these 10 these 10 handouts the Democrats are asking to literally defund and what's the word I'm looking for, people? Defund, not decapitate, defund, but when they tie you down, you can't do anything. Try to hold ICE where they can't do anything. And I gave you some insight into how we need to fight. I'm sick and tired of losing. I'm sick and tired of spineless people pretending to have the moral ground. I'm not talking about you, Miss Annette. You're too beautiful and too nice. You're forgivable. But not these bums who do this for a living and claim to have a moral ground. They do not. If Republicans would fight Democrats as hard as rhinos destroy conservatives, we would win this battle. And that's what my points are made. Until next week, my friends, do not forget to check us out at Grumblings Media. Follow us on both YouTube and Rumble. I am William Del Pilar for the beautiful Miss Annette Ross and the G-Man, who is no Shrek Khan. Until next week, I and we are out. Hey, everybody, this is William Del Pilar, founder of Grumblings Media, and I want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our all-volunteer efforts at Grumblings Media, smash the subscribe button right here. 100% free, and please consume and share our great content. Click either one of these two boxes for more of our work.